In the last video, we slowly went through the process of solving this equation, x squared plus 6x equals 16. And we looked at it as an x squared plus a 6x. We split the 6 in half, moved the thing to the bottom. We had to complete the square by adding in a 3 by 3 little bit. We added 3 squared to both sides, and that enabled us to turn it into a perfect x plus 3 times x plus 3. If you look at this, if you multiply this out, x times x is x squared, x times 3 is 3x, x times 3 is another 3x, 3x plus 3x is 6x, and 3 times 3 is 3 squared. It always works out. When you do this, you get x plus 3 squared. You get x plus the half of the 6 is, well, whatever you get when you add either the 3 squared to the other side, the 25. Right, and then we took the square root of both sides, x plus 3. Now, because we do know about negative numbers, we know that not only does 5 square to be 25, but negative 5 also squares to be 25. So we don't just say the square root of 25 is 5, we say x plus 3 is plus or minus the square root of 25. Then we subtract 3 from both sides, and we get two different answers. We get the positive 5 answer and the negative 5 answer. Positive 5 is 5 minus 3 is 2. We saw that was a successful answer before. We also have negative 5 minus 3 is negative 8. And if we look at our original x squared plus 6x, you'd see that x squared plus 6x is negative 8 squared plus 6 times negative 8. Negative 8 squared is 64. 6 times negative 8 is negative 48. And 64 minus 48 is also 16. But we're not going to get into this right now. Today we're just going to look at this part. This video, we're just going to talk about this. When you have x squared all by itself, nothing in front of the x, plus some number of x's, completing the square is going to be adding half of that 6, half of that coefficient of the x squared. Half of 6 is 3. 3 squared is what you add to both sides. And not only is that 3 squared what you add to both sides, but that 3 is what x is going to be added to and squared. I just want to run through a bunch of quick examples. If you had x squared plus 10x equals 1, you'd look at half of that 10 is 5, and you would add 5 squared to both sides. Because this whole left-hand side is going to turn into x plus 5 squared. And on the right, you've added 25 to 1, you get 26. But the most important thing is that half of the 10 is what you have to add squared, and half of the 10, the 5, is what you have inside the parentheses with the x when it's squared. Another example, let's say it was an odd number. X squared plus 7x is 8. You have to add half of that 7 squared. What's half of 7? 7 halves. So you have to add 7 halves squared to both sides. What this is on the right is going to be a pain in the butt, but most importantly, what I want you to understand is this whole thing is going to simplify to x plus 7 halves squared, because x times x is x squared. You get that. You get x times 7 halves is 7 halves x, and another 7 halves x is a total of 7 x's, just like you want, and 7 halves times 7 halves is 7 halves squared. What if you had a horrible fraction? We take half of that 3/11ths. Half of 3/11ths is half of 3/11ths. You add half of 3/11ths and squared to both sides of the equation. That is 3 22s, and so you're going to end up having x plus 3 22s squared on this side of the equation, and I don't know what that is going to be on the other side, but I don't care. That's not what I'm trying to get you to understand right now. If you had some variable, you have to add half of that coefficient. The coefficient is w. Half of that is w over 2. So you add w over 2 squared to both sides of the equation. You end up getting x plus w over 2 squared equals whatever. The one I really want you to understand is if it was x squared plus b over a. What's half of b over a? b over 2a. So you add b over 2a squared to both sides, and you're going to get x plus b over 2a squared is whatever that stuff is. And if you understand that, you'll be ready for the hardest part of the next video.